Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, out of our studios here in Munich. Commodity TV for you here for the, not the first time, Simon Clarke, who is the Executive General Manager Corporate Affairs, but for the first time now for Jervois Mining, a company out of Australia. And as you may remember, Simon was last year already here with us, and he was the CEO of M2 Cobalt, and Jervois Mining merged with M2 Cobalt this year, and so now he has his new role and he wants to give us an insight into this terrific cobalt company. Welcome, Simon.
Hi, Jochen. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. And as I said already to Farhad, a great time point. Oktoberfest is near and we're going to check that out, I would say.
It's just a coincidence.
Absolutely. Yeah, you were M2 Cobalt. Now it's Jervois Mining. I think, I must say, a great company. When I looked at the presentation, very impressive. 50 years listed already on the ASX. And when I saw also your management team, ex-Xstrata, ex-Glencore, amazing, some heavyweights, and maybe you give us a short overview on the company.
Sure. So, I mean, the current team came into Jervois in late 2017, really with a view to build a leader in the battery metal space. The reason they chose Jervois is that at that time, clean tech had a market valuation of over $500 million, and Jervois is a company that had a lot of royalty streams in it, but in the mix, it had a hidden gem. It had a large nickel laterite project, very similar to Cleantech's, called Nico Young, and yet the market valuation of Jervois at the time was 30 or 40 million Australian.
Okay.
So big discrepancy, and they thought, you know, the battery metals is the place to be. We want to build a platform that can be multi-jurisdictional with amazing projects around the world, but what a great place to kick off with an asset here that we think can lead to a re-rating in the short term of the company.
Absolutely. And you have a multi-jurisdictional approach. I would call it even an intercontinental approach because you're on 3 continents. I would say let's make it a bit structured. I would love to start with Idaho before we come to Australia, because I see Idaho as the really fast track to production.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you come on that?
So the Idaho Cobalt project, as it was called, we call it the Idaho Cobalt Operations, is a project that has been in the making for 20 plus years. It's a project that is well known. A lot of people think it's the best cobalt project outside of East Africa and should have been in production during the last cycle. So as well as merging with M2 Cobalt this year, Jervois has been busy. They also merged with E.Cobalt and have taken over control and operatorship of the Idaho Cobalt project. So it's the largest cobalt asset in North America, in the US. There is no domestic production in the US. It's got extremely high grades. It will be a primary cobalt mine. And so it was a great asset to bring into this multi-jurisdictional platform.
Absolutely. And I saw in your presentation there were already 135 million Canadian dollars invested. And so it's not like an exploration site. It is like already a mine site. It is like, let's call it ready to be brought in production, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been 100 million US spent at the mine site. A lot of the infrastructure is already in place. There's been a number of studies and feasibility studies done on it. From the Jervois perspective, our approach is to simplify things, make sure we get the project into production as quickly as possible. We're looking at the second half of 2021. And so what we're doing is we're finalizing a bankable feasibility study of our own.
How much does that cost?
About 5 million US.
And you have the money?
Oh yes, we raised 16.5 million Australian in June. We had 19.5 million on the balance sheet at the end of July.
So that's enough, absolutely.
So we've got the capital, and in that 5 million that we're spending on the bankable feasibility, we're also doing some drilling. We needed some additional core to finalize the bankable feasibility. We wanted to tighten the resource itself through some infill drilling. And we're also doing some exploration, or what we call expansion drilling, because there's actually large areas of the asset that have not been explored. and we believe we can significantly expand the resource and ultimately probably double the size of the potential production coming out of the asset.
Wow, fantastic. What is the time frame now, let's say, to bring this into production?
So,
is it like 2 years, 3 years? What do you think?
A couple of years, I mean, is our target. We will complete the bankable feasibility by the end of March next year. We will raise the capital in a similar timeline, looking to draw that capital down middle of next year, and then move into the construction phase. You know, we will start construction in Q3 and put the portal in and drill from underground. And from that point, would be about 12 months till we're into first commercial production.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So that would put
end of 2021 then?
Second half of 2021, yeah.
Oh, that is really fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's exactly also when, like, I would call it, even more E-models are hitting the market. That means the battery demand is really, rising, I would say, and cobalt is still critical, right? How large is the world market of cobalt by now?
Well, you know, it's about 120,000 tons
That's
currently.
not that much.
It's a small market. As you know, it's largely supplied out of one country, being the Congo in East Africa.
Yeah.
There's concerns about the Congo as a source of supply, child labor, certain other concerns about the government and royalty
diseases
regimes.
Even, is that warlords, whatever.
Exactly.
It's not easy to operate.
Exactly, and a lot of end users are looking now for non-DRC sourced cobalt. Even beyond that, even including the DRC, if you look at any of the articles or analysis that are done on the battery thematic, the demand for cobalt is going to start to go up exponentially as we move into the 2020s.
Yeah.
And, you know...
Right time for you.
Absolutely. You know, we have to find and bring on new sources of cobalt. So I think being able to bring this project into production in a short timeline is a really key driver of value for Jervois.
Yeah, and it would be a certified, ethical, correct source, of course, because it's in the US.
It's in the US, it's fully permitted.
Super.
You know, environmental practices are to the fore. Everything's been done. As I say, we're permitted for 1,200 tons a day. And we're going to, as I say, move quickly into production here.
Fantastic. Let's touch then Australia, the Nico Young. We already spoke about it. So that's the more, little bit, say, the midterm future or long-term future of the company, right?
Sure. I mean, Nico Young is a large nickel laterite. Again, think of clean tech. There's a number of these large projects. They tend to be large scale but lower grade, and typically need higher pricing on the cobalt and the nickel price to be commercially effective. But what you're seeing in the world right now is a strange sort of separation. On one hand, the stocks in a lot of the battery metals have, you know, had a tougher time recently. But on the other hand, you're seeing all the strategic players, all the battery manufacturers, even the end users, the car manufacturers, and a number of players looking at the future and saying, you know, as we move into the 20s, we need to lock up supply of cobalt, but also nickel sulfate is a big component of the cathode as well. And these projects in Australia have both. It's a great jurisdiction to be doing business in, very low sovereign risk. And so people are very, very interested in Nico Young to partner on and to provide the capital for us to move that through the next phase of feasibility.
How much capital would that be? Just a rough number, because it's a forward-looking statement. You don't know yet, but an estimate.
Sure. I mean, I think if you look at what a feasibility process would cost for more infill drilling, probably somewhere in the order of 10 to 15 million Australian. So
that's a big boy.
It's relatively big, but again, given the size of these projects and the potential production that comes out of it, there is a lot of interest.
So we can talk something in the order of 700 million, maybe up to $1 billion, something like that, maybe in that room?
I mean, if you look at the traditional nickel laterites that are in Australia, most of them require high pressured acid leach, which is a very costly process. Typically, I think Cleantech's latest estimation is somewhere in the order of $2 billion US to put that into production. Nyko young because we're using heap leach, which again is
much more easy.
It's an innovative approach. I mean, you still need an acid plant and lots of infrastructure, but the costs are well less than half. You know, probably more like 40% of what it will cost for an H-pile.
Okay, super.
So, yeah.
Great. So that looks fantastic for the future, of course.
Yeah.
Let's move to Africa. Your lovely baby Uganda, of course. That's how we met first.
As we here last year, we were talking about exploration in Uganda, which is.
So what's the status there?
You know, Jervois have been a great partner in that regard. They saw the potential of East Africa. I mean, as you mentioned, their backgrounds, a lot of them have worked in the Congo, in Zambia.
Yeah, they know it inside out. Yeah.
They know it inside out, and they know that if you're going to be a serious player in battery metals, especially on the cobalt side, you need to have exposure to East Africa. And again, like a lot of players, we don't want to be in the Congo for the well-documented issues that are there. So they were very interested in M2 because they saw same geology as the Congo, form of production. As we talked last year, Uganda is home to the historic Kalimbe mine, which back between the 50s and the 70s produced significant amounts of copper and cobalt.
Yeah. This belongs also to you already?
No, that's owned by the government of Uganda.
But so probably they want to do something with you.
Absolutely. You know, they're very interested in moving that mine back into production. But, you know, from our perspective, having looked at it, we think that what is left in the mine is only a fraction of the potential for Uganda, which is, again,
huge.
Why our exploration team and what we've been doing in Uganda was very interesting to Jervois.
Fantastic. And I thought there was a photo of, it looked to me like a refinery. What's up with that?
Yeah, so Uganda, as well as having the old Kalimbe mine, which you know still has significant ore at the site, and we believe surrounding it, there is a cobalt refinery. It was built 5 miles away from the mine. It was built in the late 90s. And what it did was it processed the tailings, the primary tailings from Kalimbe. It's a bio-leach facility. It's actually pretty good technology. It's in good state of repair. They ran it for several years as they ran through some of the easy tailings. They didn't get into the secondary tailings. And then it's been on care and maintenance for a number of years now. But they've done a good job. And our view, and you know, is very much that you could use that as the basis to launch a battery hub or a refinery hub in Uganda. So we believe the mine and the refinery go hand in hand.
It's a big asset then, yeah. Super.
Yeah, and we're in good discussions with the government on it. I mean, there are other interested parties, but we believe with our position in country and the team we've got and the fact that there is a need for a large exploration element, and then you have the technical expertise of the team from Jervois, you know, we believe that we're the right group that can really help the government take this forward and take it to the next step.
Fantastic, great. Let's come shortly on the capital side at the end of the interview. I saw you have 642 million shares roughly outstanding. I mean, that would be a killer in the North American markets. For Australia, we know it, it's a cultural thing. It's normal. It's even not that many, right? So who is holding that? What is management holding? What are, let's say, your anchor shareholders or your big shareholders? Please allude a bit on that, institutions, etc.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a large number of shares. We used the shares to acquire both M2 Cobalt and E.Cobalt.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, you know, and if you think about the time in the cycle with the cobalt prices off, Jervois was able to acquire these companies and these assets at a really good point in the cycle. So, yes, we had to use stock, but even a year ago, it would have been 3 or 4 times the price that we paid for them. So, you know, it's a great position to be in.
It was positive dilution.
Positive dilution, and positive dilution in that you're bringing in really strong assets that you can put a strong value to. And so, you know, in terms of management and the board of directors, as I mentioned earlier, we raised 16.5 million in June. Around about 3 million of that was from the management and directors. As a group, we own 5 to 6% of the company. And that round was wholly institutional. I can't give you the names, but we have one of the largest Australian pension funds who invested in the company. And you know, from
Management, of course, right?
Management. Also, on the Canadian side, it's known that Dundee was a shareholder of E.Cobalt, so they're now a shareholder of Jervois. And then we have several other well-known institutions that are also in the mix. So
well diversified, but strong holders also.
I mean, we believe
that's important.
We believe that this is going to become the main go-to institutional play in the battery metal space. And you know, I think the ability of Jervois to raise that capital at a very tough time in the cycle just shows you the institutional belief in the team.
Fantastic. Well, Simon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's really interesting. You have convinced me, of course, already.
Yes.
I like it. No, please keep it going, and we look forward then that you bring Idaho in production, I would say.
Absolutely, and look forward to keeping you posted.
Super. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's how we do it. Great. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Simon Clarke, the Executive General Manager Corporate Affairs of Jervois Mining. And you heard it. I would say, as a little summary, this is, the emerging cobalt powerhouse, the next one. And it's a 3-continent approach, of course, but with that management team coming from Xstrata, Glencore, from the big houses, they are used to Africa, they're used to Australia, they're used to the US. I mean, that's exactly what you want to have, what you want to see in a company. Also well-financed, they have enough money to do the next steps. And honestly, to have a future production within approximately 1.5 to 2 years in the US for the US car market, for the battery manufacturers here, just let's say in front of their door, from a sustainable, reliable source, I think that is an asset that cannot be really underestimated. That is fantastic. So check out the company. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Munich.